Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, I want to speak to the man who sits alone in his home, the man who watches the world around him, wondering if love has passed him by. Maybe he sees couples in the park, families in the streets, and he wonders, is something missing in my life? A man who lives alone without a girlfriend often feels the weight of solitude. He may wake up in the silence of his own room, make his meals for one, and return home after a long day with no one to greet him. Society tells him that to be alone is to be incomplete, that a man without a partner is somehow lacking. But I tell you tonight, that is not true. Because the measure of a man is not in who walks beside him, but in who he is when he walks alone. There is a reason for this season in your life. There is strength in solitude. Some of the greatest men in history, leaders, thinkers, and visionaries, walked through years of loneliness before stepping into their calling. In the quiet moments, a man finds himself. He learns discipline. He learns to rely not on the fleeting affections of others, but on a foundation that cannot be shaken. But hear me when I say this. Being alone does not mean being forgotten. It does not mean you are unloved. It does not mean your story is over. Love is not something we chase like a desperate wanderer in the desert. Love is a gift given in its proper time, and when it comes, it will not be forced. It will be right, and it will be true. So to the man who lives alone tonight, I tell you, do not despair. Oh. Use this time to grow, to strengthen yourself, to build the life that will be worthy of the love you seek. And if that love is meant for you, it will come, not a moment too late, nor a moment too soon. A man who lives alone without a companion knows the weight of silence. He wakes up to an empty house with no voice to greet him in the morning, no warm embrace to remind him that he is seen. The meals he prepares are for one. The chair across from him remains empty. The world outside moves in a rhythm of togetherness, lovers walking hand in hand, families filling the streets with laughter, while he walks his own path alone. There is a certain loneliness that creeps in during the quiet hours of the night. The moments when the day's work is done, and there is no one to share the victories or ease the burdens. No voice to say, I understand, or I am here with you. In those moments, solitude can feel like an aching void, a reminder that the heart was made for connection. Yet, this solitude is not only a burden, it is a test, a refining fire. It reveals the strength of a man's heart. When there is no one to depend on for comfort, he must find something deeper to sustain him. When there is no one to affirm his worth, he must learn to see it for himself. Solitude asks him hard questions. Who is he when no one is watching? What does he live for when there is no one beside him? These are the questions that shape a man, that build a foundation no storm can shake. And yet even the strongest man cannot deny the pull of companionship. He longs not just for romance, but for the simple presence of another, a shared laugh, a knowing glance, a hand to hold when the road grows weary. It is not weakness to want these things. It is human. But if a man does not have them now, it does not mean he is abandoned. It does not mean his story is lacking. It means he is in a season of waiting, a time of growth. A man who lives alone without a companion may feel the ache of solitude. But that ache is not the end of his story. It is only a chapter, one that is shaping him into the man he is meant to be. A man may spend years searching for someone to fill the empty spaces of his life, believing that love alone will give him purpose. He may look around and see others building their lives around relationships, finding joy in a shared journey, and wonder if he is missing out on something essential. But if his heart is set only on the pursuit of companionship, he risks overlooking the deeper calling of his existence. A man's worth is not defined by whether he has a partner. It is defined by what he stands for, what he believes in, and what he gives to the world. Too often, people make the mistake of thinking that love is the only thing that can bring fulfillment. But love, as wonderful as it is, was never meant to be the sole source of purpose. There are greater things, a mission to fulfill, a dream to chase, a legacy to leave behind. History is filled with men who walked alone, yet their lives were anything but empty. They found meaning in their work, in their faith, in the causes they championed. They did not wait for someone else to validate their existence. They poured themselves into their craft, their vision and their convictions. They understood that fulfillment comes not from another person, but from living with passion, discipline, and a sense of responsibility towards something greater than themselves. A man who is alone has a unique opportunity. Without the distractions of a relationship, he has the time to develop his mind, strengthen his body, and sharpen his spirit. He can invest in his growth, pursue wisdom, and build a foundation that will serve him for years to come. The world does not need more men who seek completion in another person. It needs men who stand firm in who they are, men who have discovered their purpose independent of anyone else. Love may come in time, but purpose cannot wait. A man must first know who he is and what he lives for before he can share that life with someone else. If he spends his days searching for meaning in another person, he will always feel restless. But if he finds meaning in something eternal, something unshakable, then whether he walks alone or beside another, his life will never be empty. Loneliness is often seen as something to be avoided, a condition to be cured as quickly as possible. But there is a strength that can only be forged in the absence of constant companionship. A man who walks through loneliness without running from it discovers a power within himself that others may never find. When there is no one to lean on, he learns to stand on his own. He becomes his own source of motivation, his own voice of encouragement. In the silence of solitude, he is forced to confront his fears, his insecurities, and the truths he might have ignored in the noise of company. It is in these moments that a man either crumbles or rises. And those who choose to rise find that they emerge with a resilience that no circumstance can break. Loneliness teaches patience. It teaches a man how to wait without desperation, how to trust the process of life without forcing things before their time. It teaches him that he does not need constant validation to know his worth. He learns to find joy in his own company, to walk through the world with confidence, not because someone else is beside him, but because he has built himself into someone strong, steady, and whole. Through loneliness, a man gains the discipline to master his emotions, the clarity to recognize what truly matters, and the focus to build a life of substance. Many people fear being alone because they have never learned how to be at peace with themselves. But a man who embraces solitude does not fear it. He grows through it. And when the time comes that he is no longer alone, he will bring into a relationship not desperation, but strength. He will not ask someone else to complete him, for he is already whole. The strength found in loneliness is not just about enjoying isolation. It is about transforming it into a foundation that nothing can shake. A man who has spent years alone may wonder if love will ever find him. He may look at the passing seasons and feel the weight of waiting, questioning whether he is meant to walk this path forever. It is easy to believe that love is something that must be chased, something that must be seized before time runs out. But love, true love, does not operate on a schedule dictated by fear or impatience. It arrives in its own time, at the moment when both hearts are ready. There is a reason that love does not always come when we expect it. Sometimes a man must first become the person he is meant to be before he can receive the love that is meant for him. There are lessons to learn, struggles to endure, and strengths to develop. A relationship built too soon before a man has established his purpose and direction is like a house without a foundation, It may stand for a time, but it will not endure the storms of life. But just because love has not yet arrived does not mean it never will. Life has a way of bringing the right people together at the right moment. The person who walks alone today may find himself standing beside someone tomorrow, not because he forced it, but because it was always part of the journey. In the meantime, there is no need for despair, no reason to believe that he is forgotten. Love is not something that must be chased. It is something that is prepared for. A man who trusts in the right timing of love does not waste his days in longing or frustration. He uses his time wisely, becoming the kind of person who will one day offer something meaningful to the right partner. And when love finally arrives, he will know that it was never late, never lost, but always waiting for the right time. Speech. A man who lives alone without a girlfriend, ladies and gentlemen. There is a man out there tonight who sits alone, wondering if something is missing from his life. He watches as the world moves around him. Couples sharing quiet moments, families building a future together. And he feels the weight of his own solitude. He hears the voices of society telling him that to be alone is to be incomplete, that without love, something within him is lacking. But I want to tell that man something different tonight. To be alone does not mean to be abandoned. To walk without a partner does not mean to walk without purpose. A man's worth is not measured by the presence of a companion, but by the strength of his character, the depth of his convictions, and the life he builds when no one else is watching. Some of the greatest men in history walked long roads of solitude before they stepped into their true calling. They did not waste their years waiting for love to define them. They forged themselves into men of wisdom, strength, and purpose. Yes, there are nights when loneliness whispers doubts into the heart. But there is a strength found in that loneliness, a refining fire that tests a man's patience, discipline, and faith. A man who embraces solitude does not grow bitter. He grows stronger. He learns to stand firm, to walk his path with confidence, knowing that love, if it is meant to be, will come in its right time. And that is the hope I leave you with tonight. Love is not something to be rushed or forced. It is not something that should consume a man's every thought, as if without it, life has no meaning. Love is a gift, and gifts are given in their appointed time. If it is meant for you, it will come, not a moment too soon, nor a moment too late. So to the man who lives alone, I say this. Do not despair. Do not lose heart. Your life is not defined by the absence of love, but by the presence of purpose. Walk boldly in your calling. Build yourself into the man you are meant to be, and trust that everything else will fall into place when the time is right.